Hope you're all doing well. I wanted to come on and do some Q&A. It's been a while, and summer is well underway. We've gone through some massive heat waves, and many of you are asking questions about so many topics that are relevant right now. First of all, I know it's July, but people are already starting to think about back to school. So if you haven't downloaded my back to school guide, it's a new guide. We just put it together. We've been getting amazing feedback on the guide. So download the guide. It's totally free. Look at my old posts where it says about children's health and download that. And then the recent post I just posted about the toxin that is found on the pap smear, stick. And oh my gosh, my inbox is flooded with questions. People saying, oh my God, are you recommending that we don't do this? Are you recommending that we do something different? How do we protect ourselves? I've got my parsley shot here, so I'm going to be finishing that up hopefully before the end of the call. Hi everyone. Hi Nicolene. Love you too. Hi Tamika. Nice to see you. So come on and say hello. It's summertime. So basically, I'm on day 77 of my 369 cleanses. So it's pretty cool to be able to do this in the summer. I just feel so good on it. So good on it. The other thing I wanted to share with you all is, was talking about the pap smear. So people asking me, well, what do I do? If you get a pap smear, then flush your vaginal area, right? So flush it with water or with silver. You can flush it with, I have a Golden Seal eye wash recipe, which also has the recipe for a vaginal douche. So you can do that and get that as well, and flush your system. But the most important thing is to do some of the 369 cleanses if you have that happen, and also do some the heavy metal detox cleanse. So you can bring in the extractor smoothie, which is really helpful to extract some of those poisons out of you. Guanyin says, I don't get my period for 2 months. I'm not pregnant, but I have endometriosis. What are the reasons? The reasons you're not having a cycle is because you have a growth of Epstein-Barr, which is what causes endometriosis in your reproductive system, and can also cause a cessation of periods. So the way to deal with that is to bring in the core 7 supplements. It's B12, zinc, micro C, lysine, cat's claw, lemon balm, licorice root. Also for reproductive issues, nettle leaf and red raspberry leaf. And cut out eggs, dairy, gluten, corn, soy, canola. And start there. Start bringing in celery juice, and that is helpful. So this is an Ask Muneeza Q&A. If you have a question, come jump on and ask me. Hi Claudia, nice to see you. Hi Ingy Gets Healthy, sorry. It's hard to read some handles when there's no spaces in between them. All right, so so come on, Guanyin. How long have you been using medical medium information to heal? Let me know. I'd love to hear more about that. So yeah, let me know. So if you have a question, come and ask me. This is an open forum, open session. So if you have a question about your health and you want answers and you want some support, please ask me what it is that you want. Are you all traveling this summer? Do you have any places you're headed out to? So, let me know about that too. I'd love to hear more about what's going on in your lives. So FW Ryan 62. Hello, Muneeza. Hi. I don't know who you are, but hello. It's hard to tell from people's handles who they are sometimes. Okay, so yeah, it takes a minute to get people on and asking questions, but go ahead and ask questions. All right, so somebody asked me about thyroid medication. So with thyroid medication, you want to, and she's saying, do I come off of it? I don't have any of my symptoms anymore. Talk to your doctor, see what they say. She said her doctor is struggling to take her off meds because he wants her to be on it for longer. So, you know, I understand that too. But you can negotiate with your doctor and tell them that you're feeling really well and you're feeling good. And hopefully you'll, you know, be able to move forward from there on to slowly. If you start slowly reducing it, talk to your doctor about slowly reducing it. I think a reasonable doctor should be able to work with that. Hi, Rebecca. Tamika says, I'm using peas and raspberry leaf tea for hair loss. Any other quick tips? Actually, nettle is much better for hair loss than red raspberry leaf. Both are good, but nettle is really good. And also for hair loss, aloe and silica are really, really important and helpful. Guanyin says, thank you. I had a lot of stress in the last 2 months, and I was not so strict with the diet. Oh, it's Faith. Hi, Faith. Nice to see you here. I hope you're feeling better. Marguerite, is NMN okay to take? You got to explain to me what that is. NMN, I haven't heard. I've heard many acronyms, and they can stand for multiple different things, so let me know what you're talking about, Marguerite. Okay, thank you. Hair loss was from stress. Remember, ashwagandha is a huge part of that too. If it's hair loss from stress, then the reason that that's happening is because your adrenal blends that keeps your hair in has become weaker. So to increase that blend, you need to bring in ashwagandha. Nancy Fantastic says, says peas for hair loss. Yes, she's already having those peas. If you see her earlier post, she said, I'm already having peas. Marguerite says, I'm talking about NAD boosters. No. You know, Marguerite, all those types of things are those trendy traps. Medical Medium talks about trendy traps a lot. And he says how trendy traps are just there to trip us up and to cause us to like get stuck in something. So it doesn't move your health forward. It really doesn't support you. Honestly, at the root of it, it's really not helping you. So be careful of trendy traps, okay? Nancy, that's funny, yeah. I know sometimes we miss things. All right, so about the woman who was asking about her thyroid medication, you can always reduce it with your doctor. Like talk to them and say, hey, I want to just come down a little bit and I want to see how I do. If you have no symptoms and you're all better, you have a good case to negotiate for that. Tamika says, I only take ashwagandha at night, 2 droppers, maybe not enough. If you're going through that much stress and you're losing your hair, I would work on that number. Maybe take a little bit more. All right, so if you're new here, say hello. Tell me, say hi in the comments. Tell me what you're up to this summer, because the summer weather has just turned really nice where we are. Ask a question about your personal health. If you have questions about your health, if you're not sure, if you're stuck, I'm here to answer questions. So go ahead and share some cues in the chat box. Bear Vaquero, hello. How can I lower cortisol, says Autumn. Cortisol is a corticosteroid. It's a steroid hormone in our bodies. So if you're high in cortisol, it means that your adrenals are getting weaker. And so if you have high cortisol, then I would make sure that you are doing a lot of adrenal healing snacks, like the Medical Medium adrenal healing snacks, if you know what those are. I also think that it's important to bring in licorice fruit and ashwagandha. Also lower cortisol. You also have to find out the root of the cortisol. Is it coming from having a high viral load? Is it coming from having an exposure to poisons and toxins? Is it coming from some other reason, right? That's really important to know. So, Carolyn NYC says, how did you get such whites of the eyes? Are they that white? I never really noticed. Yeah, whites of the eyes. I think it's just all the tools that I do. Been doing this stuff for a while. Nicolene, I'm going to start seeing you in August. Thank you for that. I'm so excited to support you, Nicolene. I'm excited to connect. It'll be an honor. Vanessa Halla says, what do you think about the new hype about mouth breathing? Is it really all about the tongue? There's many components to mouth breathing, and it's not all about the tongue. It's about obstruction versus non-obstruction. So mouth breathing can happen with obstructive sleep apnea, which happens because either you have sinus congestion, which causes the mucus, causes an obstruction, or there's a deformity or swelling of the tissues, which causes an obstruction, or it's because you have a neurological signal that's not working to help you breathe through your nose, so you end up breathing through your mouth. And that's not obstruction, that's non-obstructive sleep apnea, but it's a real reason, and Anthony writes about this in Thyroid Healing, so go look that up. Michaela says, norovirus twice in a month, it's really hard to get back, and a lot of healing foods, and I'm having setbacks, so I would do some shock therapies. You can even shock therapy, Total Immune Blend, you should shock therapy some zinc. Right, she shock therapy these. I would shock therapy some micro C. This stuff is a game changer. If you have a weak immune system, you've got to start using some shock therapies. They will make a big difference, hopefully. Yes. Valpacio says, hi, I'm new here. Where are you located? I'm in the northeast of the USA. Where are you located? Faith says, best protocols to move forward from bloating and muscle fatigue. Which cleanses would be best? So, best protocols for bloating. Parsley shot, the nerve gut acid stabilizer shot that he talks about in the Brain Saver books. This is the shot for it. Taking a sip of that. I love the green taste of it. It's so green. You can taste the alkalinity in it. This is really helpful for calming down bloat. Also, if you are too acidic and you need alkalinity, this is really important. And then this is also great for muscle fatigue, because muscle fatigue is caused by not having enough nutrients going into the nerves of the muscles. So this provides trace mineral salts that get into those nerves and really makes a big difference. So which cleanses are best? For bloating, I would do a mono eating cleanse. But for muscle fatigue, I would do the 369. So maybe you can do that. I see a very special friend here. Hello, I know you know who you are. Hello. Alicia McCrae. When is it too late to not be able to save a cavity without a root canal? So it's too late once the cavity has crossed over the dentin. So if the dentin, or the yellow part of the inner part of the tooth, is starting to show, then it's too late. So the questions have just gone nuts. So when is it too late? Yeah, so once it hits the dentin, then the cavity will progress very quickly. So you have to deal with it before that happens. KK says, since the birth of my child, I developed some red spots on my skin, I guess the blood sponges, and one big birthmark on my spine. Why is that, and what can I do to get rid of it? So red spots on your skin are coming from the liver, right? Liver issues. And a big birthmark on your spine. I mean, if it's a birthmark, was it there from the time you were born? Or was it there since the birth of your child? Because if that's the case, it could be an injury. And what do you do to get rid of it? I'd have to really talk to you to help you understand, KK, what's going on. Where did the injury come from? Did you have an epidural? Is it an injury from an epidural? Is it an injury to the nerve? Is it an injury to some spinal nerves or some other muscles, and as a start. So next question is, what can be done about dry nasal mucous membranes? Especially, I don't know, there seems to be some sort of filter that came on, which I hate filters. There, is it off now? What can be done about dry nasal mucous membranes, specifically dryness severe enough to impair ventilation of the eustachian tubes, making it impossible to equalize pressure? So, dry nasal passages, dry mucous membranes, you have to work with antiviral protocols because viruses are at the root of that. You have to work with strep protocols because with the nasal membranes, often strep is part of that issue as well. I would bring in the mold exposure shot, which really battles strep. I would bring in the pathogen exposure shot, turmeric ginger garlic shot. So I would use Sovereign Silver spray up the nose. I would use Golden Seal spray up the nose. I would do some garlic as well separately. And I would do, I would spray and then also apply a little bit of like olive or coconut oil after you spray to trap that moisture in, to start to help, at least in the nasal passages, to help to hold in the moisture. It's an old Ayurvedic technique. My grandparents used to do it for me. They would actually, we would do a steam, like a steam of water with, usually they put menthol in it, and we do a steam of water with menthol in it, and then my grandmother would take sesame oil and just put it on the inner passages, and it actually kept you moisturized for quite a while and started to support you while you then heal the underlying issue that's causing the dryness. I hope that helps. So Nancy says, I'd love an adapted 369 advanced cleanse advice and exercising 2 to 3 hours and 4 to 5 days a week, which I love, and I want to be more athletic. So if you're doing a 369 cleanse, it's often not enough calories to be able to fully, do like a lot of working out. So if you're going to do that, you need to adapt by adding in double of the HMDS, double of the liver rescue, and then maybe also adding mango to your spinach soup and adding mango to your liver rescue smoothie. And that way you'll be able to get more of the tools you need to be able to work out. Are TMS machines safe? You mean the TENS machines, the ones they use for like period pain? Yeah, those are pretty safe. Can you address bedwetting in older children, Zen veteran? Yes, bedwetting in older children is caused by toxic heavy metals in the brain that affect the signal from the brain to the bladder to hold pee in. That signal gets disrupted and then they pee. So you have to work with toxic heavy metal removal. So that's the key to it. KK says, no, the birthmark came after the birth of my child. So if that's the case, that's all from your liver. All from your liver. Rafi Dorian says, I'm postmenopausal and having uterine bleeding with uterine polyps. I've had 2 procedures, hysteroscopies. What can you suggest? I would work with the protocols for EBV and strep both to help calm all those down. I don't know what protocols you're doing, Rafi. I know you struggle to keep with your protocols because life is so busy and you're taking care of so many people. So really nail down on the supplements and the foods because that will help you overcome this the most. If you're new here, come and say hello, say hi, tell me how you're doing, and ask a personal health questions that I can support you with. All right, so like I said, if you're new here, come and say hello. What do I suggest for Parkinson's? Gosh, I spoke to somebody with Parkinson's this morning. Parkinson's is caused by having oxidized runoff of toxic heavy metals in the brain, including mercury, aluminum, and copper. And it's deeply embedded in the brain. And there's also they also form alloys, and those alloys, when they oxidize because you're eating too much fat or running on too much adrenaline, will oxidize and run off into the surrounding brain tissue, and that's what really causes the tremors and disruptions of those signals in the brain. So those are very important to keep in mind. And to do for Parkinson's is to then bring in the heavy metal detox smoothie, extractor smoothie, get the Brain Saver book and do the heavy metal detox cleanse out of that book. Bear Vaquero says, thanks for answering our questions. You're welcome. My adrenals are very weak, and heat waves, exercise, or a little viral exposure can get me to lose hair during the 5 to 6 months. What can I do? Eat peas every day, bring in ashwagandha, also that's a viral source of losing hair. It's like alopecia. So I would say you want to really hit up the core 7 really well. Bringing in cat's claw, lemon balm, licorice root, ashwagandha, B12, zinc, micro C lysine, nettle leaf, aloe, silica, MSM, all of those are really, really important to bring in. So I hope that helps. And of course, peas every single day, green peas, steamed green peas. They've got to be organic, because if they're not organic, they're GMO'd. So green peas should always be had organic. Michaela says, how do you know if you're in perimenopause? One of the signs can be that your period is starting to get less regular. But it also depends on your age. So if you're getting less regular and you're 30 years old, that's not perimenopause. That's viral menopause. It's very different. If you are 50 and starting perimenopause and starting to have irregular periods, then that is perimenopause. But you really shouldn't be having, if you lose your cycle younger than 50 years, you're really not in perimenopause. You're dealing with a viral issue. Nancy Fantastic says, my doctor made me worried that all postmenopausal women should get a scan to check for osteoporosis. I don't feel good about that scan. Yeah, my thoughts are that if you really feel like you need it, then do it. But basically, women lose minerals throughout their life, and by the time they get to their 50s, and it's got nothing to do with menopause, you could be really weakened in your bones and in your teeth. And so how you know how you're doing is how are your teeth doing. That's a really good way to start checking about bone health. How are your teeth doing? If your teeth are okay, then you might be okay. But if you're worried, increase your greens, lots of leafy greens, like a pound a day. Lots of silica, aloe, MSM, nettle, magnesium are all really, really helpful. Dawn MK says, are you familiar with the Wave Watch, and do you think it's worth the investment? I'm actually not familiar with that one, so I wouldn't be able to speak to it either way. Alicia McRae says, I had a deep cavity that was filled about 3 years ago. A crown was also put on it, and the dentist said I only had a nerve left. The tooth is now starting to hurt. Oh my God, Raed, how are you? Hala, how are you doing? This is a friend from my way in the past. So a crown was put on it, and the dentist said he only had a nerve left, and now it's starting to hurt. So if it's starting to hurt, I would go back to your dentist and ask them if there's an infection there. I would go get it checked for an infection, make sure nothing else is going on, and you might need a root canal. So you just have to go get it checked. Let the dentist look at it and tell you what to do. So how do we get affected by MRI and CT scans? You get affected because there's radiation in them, but also in a CT scan, you get the radioactive iodine injected into you to do the CT scan. Not always, but sometimes. And with the MRI, it doesn't always also have to have contrast, but if it does have contrast, then it's gadolinium contrast, which is another toxic heavy metal. So if you have any of those scans without contrast, then you only have exposures to radiation from the scan. But if you have the scan with contrast, then in addition to radiation, you're also exposed to toxic heavy metals from the contrast liquid. And also when it comes to the radioactive iodine, that's also radiation because it's radioactive. KK says, I had a scar correction in my perineum after birth and realized it is still sensitive when stretched. 3 years have passed, but how could I make the scar more flexible? Eat more sweet potatoes, bring in silica and aloe, and that should help. And you can even apply aloe on it topically. Put it on your, put it on a pad on your underwear, and just, it's actually a really easy place to apply aloe all day long. Debbie says, in May I accidentally ate peas that were regenerative grown but not organic. How do I get out the GMO? Just with all the cleansing and stuff that you're doing. Leah Louv says, is it true root canals cause cancer? No, it's absolutely not true that they do. That's completely not true. So many other words to use for that. Jennifer says, what is the cause of tooth loss? Same as bone loss. It's too much acidity and too ammonia permeability from the gut. Too much acidity from the gut and ammonia permeability from the gut. So sorry about the noise. We were just blending some smoothie. My kids are in the kitchen. But that's what you get when you have a live call, because there's sounds going around and I can't stop everybody from doing everything that they do in the house. So I apologize if it was a bad sound. It's just simply the blender going and us trying to make smoothies for the afternoon. Jing Hay says, feet are swollen after long hours of sitting or standing. Any suggestions on how to heal? So if your feet are swelling, I'm really sorry to hear that. Suggestions on how to heal is to start working on your liver. Do red clover tea, lots of lemon balm, cucumber juice, watermelon juice, coconut water, and all of that. So I hope that helps. Alicia says, would a tooth be too late to save with a root canal? I'm not sure I understand the question. When would a tooth be too late to save? When it's crossed the dentine. Are you saying too late to save with a root canal? Oh yeah, if it's too late to save with a root canal and it just needs to come out, it's because they cannot do the root canal or it's too damaged to do the root canal. Then it's just best to take it out. Alfta Bella says, I had an ultrasound of my heart. Is it like an X-ray radiation? Can I detox ultrasound? Yeah, so radiation exposure shots will help you with that. Nancy says, I love the family time smoothies. Yeah, gotta do them. It's that time of the day. All right, guys, I wanted to come on and chat with you all briefly. How many of you have kids? Anyone here have kids? Our Flourish program is actually available for sale for the first time ever at the lowest cost that we've ever sold it. And so if you all want to jump in, if you have kids and if you have questions about your kids, and the one beautiful thing about the Flourish program is that we have a lot of information in there about children's supplementation, which is a big question that moms ask me all the time. We have parenting information, the parenting information I included because when you're raising a family with medical medium protocols, implementation of the protocols really matters, and that depends on how you parent your children. So we have parenting experts talking about that, but we cover every health issue that you could possibly think of, like general health issues. So we cover from kids, from babies to teenagers. And I have teenagers now, and I have parented my children from babies to teens with medical medium protocols. My children have been on medical medium protocols for 15 years. And every single day they do their lemon water, celery juice, heavy metal detox. They eat their adrenal snacks. They do all of the things that I tell you all to do. And a lot of the program is talking to you and explaining about how to do that with your children, but also what protocols to use so that you minimize your children's exposure to pharmaceuticals and choose any other options for that. So I hope you guys will check out Blossom. It's, like I said, the lowest cost that it's been. So I hope you'll see that. And I'll share more about it after the live is over. So El Brazo del Laser Piente says, can you please explain a bit more about the root canal? So root canals are great to do to save a tooth that would otherwise need to be taken out. You can save many teeth, and it is a good idea to save your teeth. So a root canal is preferable rather than taking out your tooth and needing to put an implant in instead. Root canal is really helpful to do. So I hope that that's answering your question. So if you have receding gums, swishing with celery juice is a really good idea. So Eldridge Works of Cape Cod says, hey Muneeza, are you putting out any recipes? We have a new recipe coming out this weekend. Are you excited for the new book? I'm very excited for the new book. We'll be having more recipes coming out in the future. Thrive in Sunshine says, do you have a program for women that are older? Yes, I do. It's coming out in the fall. So in September, October, you will see a program for perimenopause and menopause that we're actually doing with a very special guest. So that's coming out, and I hope you'll sign up for that. So what should you do if you have low ferritin? If you have low ferritin, that's your iron storage. That means that your iron storage is low and possibly hemoglobin, but I don't know, you didn't say that. But the way you work on that and starting to build iron is to also remove anything that's going to cause a problem with iron. So what eats your iron is Epstein-Barr, so you have to bring your viral loads down, and then you can increase your iron levels by bringing in some iron supplementation, good natural supplementation from plant sources. So the iron that I recommend is Gaia's Plant Force Liquid Iron or Global Healing Center's iron, which I think Gaia is sometimes hard to find. And start bringing in lots of leafy greens, nettle leaf tea, nettle leaf tincture, red raspberry leaf tea and tincture can be really helpful. Barbara Adlera, I just talked about receding gum swishing with celery juice is the best way. Zen Veteran says, I have kids, but my partner is resistant and skeptical of What do you recommend? I recommend still doing it. I think it's so helpful to do it, and bringing in, you don't have to bring it in all the way. Like if they're resistant to just ask them, are you resistant to like us eating better, healthier foods? Like what's the resistance from? And I think if you can get into that conversation, that's a good way to actually even strengthen your partnership. So if you're biting nails, that's type of OCD. So you have to look at OCD protocols from the Brain Book. And the way you do that is to start thinking about like removing toxic heavy metals, which is at the root, one of the roots of OCD. But also you want to look at any trauma, because trauma can also be at the root of OCD. Where does numbness and tingling come from? It comes from viruses damaging your nerves. When your nerve gets damaged, it will have all kinds of sensations, including feeling like insects are crawling on your skin, feeling burning sensations, pain sensations. Numbness and tingling is one of the milder sensations that can happen from a damaged nerve. And neurotoxins damage nerves. Neurotoxins are created by viruses eating toxic heavy metals and then pooping out neurotoxic waste, which then goes from the liver to through your bloodstream, touches your nerves, and then can cause tingling and numbness. So how do you get a red veins in the eyes if you have that going on? You want to start healing. Again, it's a liver issue, so start looking at 369 cleanses, lowering your dietary fat, and that should help. So Ingrid Vendenbrandt says, hello, I have strangely sensitive lips. They easily get swollen and painful, and can I have propolis on them at all? Are you saying that you cannot have propolis on them at all? They are burning too. I have this for more than a year and they never heal. Ingrid, this is a viral liver issue. I don't know what you're doing for the viral piece, but I would be doing the Core 7, making sure you're off of all the troublemaker foods. And like I said, zinc, B12, micro-C lysine, cat's claw, lemon balm, liquor shoot, curcumin, ALA, magnesium glycinate, all of those will help you. And also, of course, propolis can do that. Faith, you're so welcome. I hope the lives are helpful. Saharnaz Reza says, talk about macular degeneration, please. Macular degeneration is caused by severe weakening of the tissues in the eyes, which also come from EBV, lots of toxic exposures, lots of dirt, and like dirty tissues on the inside of the body. So you want to, and toxic heavy metals, you want to bring down, like do the morning cleanse, lemon water, celery juice, heavy metal detox smoothie, do some 369 cleanses, do the heavy metal detox cleanse from the Brain Book, which includes the advanced heavy metal detox, advanced extractor smoothie. Those are really helpful to bring in. And then do the antiviral protocols. Those are also really important. Sanya Barsara says, what to do with prostate issue, needing to pee often. So if you're needing to pee often, you might have an enlarged prostate, and you want to make sure you get that checked by a doctor. And what they will do is also check your PSA to make sure, PSA is an indicator for cancer. It's not always the case, but they will say that. So if you're peeing often, the root cause of an enlarged prostate is Epstein-Barr. So you want to get your guy on Epstein-Barr protocols. Like I just mentioned, all of them before. So Thrive in Sunshine. Can a lot of detox for years cause issues with urethra? No, a medical medium detoxification will not cause an issue in your urethra. The issue in your urethra comes from viruses or poisons. Joni Cow says, what causes skin tags, and is there a topical treatment? There isn't topical treatment, actually. I wish there was, but there isn't for that one. Alicia says, I was worried about getting a root canal for a while, but now I've accepted it. I'm worried about the tooth being too damaged and having to get an extraction. Hopefully it's not that. Hopefully not. Hopefully it will be okay. Again, the filter, man, I swear. Where do these filters come from? Renata says, God bless you greatly, Muneeza, in every way. Thank you for all you do. You're most welcome. Happy to help. I got hives that turned into blisters on the chest after being in the sun. Are these nerve issues? These are got to do with, these have to do with, how do you turn off filters, man? There we go. Hives has to do with extreme levels of viral neurotoxic waste coming out of the liver. And if they turn into blisters, then the sun probably was drawing out more. So this is not, it's a neurological issue in a way, but it's deeply, deeply, deeply a liver issue. Faith says, my mother has macular degeneration. Thanks for the info. Yeah, you're most welcome. Lala Lindsay, this will be my last question for today because I have to run after this. I used to be able to drink HMDS when I first started years ago, but then it changed and I got intense healing reactions. Do you know what causes that? A very toxic liver, high viral load and toxic liver. So make sure that you take a look at that. Best sunscreen for children is I love Everyone Loves the Sunshine by Living Libations. All right, you guys, I've got to run. It was really great to connect with you. Check out Flourish if you have children. And Flourish will never be at this low price again. It's a 6-week program. We have a live call coming up in August for Flourish. So if you have not checked it out, check it out. Ping me or DM me if you have questions about Flourish. But Flourish is a program that helps your children flourish. My children were in the program. We did recipes with the children. They shared those recipes. You'll be getting access to all of those things. And I'll do more about the program tomorrow. So come join me tomorrow morning as well for a live. Big hugs, guys, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.